The learning is Nishmas Etta Kelim Perik Hey Mishnah Aleph. So we completed the halachas of Chicheres, and we were moving on to the halachas of a tanner that refers in a pasuk that a tanner has tuma. So the Mishnah says tanner tchilasa arba v'shiyarev arba, that a tanner has to be the shear of 4 tvachim tall in order to be metame. Less than that, it's not mekabel tuma. And the shirayim also, meaning if it breaks, it would have to remain the shear of 4 tvachim in order to be metame. The Rosh over here learns that b'yesh b'shever echad dalet tvachim al arba, not just dalet tvachim tall, but it has to be 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Then it's mekabel tuma. Zok the Rosh, dakati chazir l'malacha rishayna, because then it could still be used for its first malacha. Rameir is not mechalik. Divrei Rameir is not mechalik between any type of tanner. However, the Chachamim Ma'amrim B'Medvarim B'Gadol, that would only apply to a regular tanner that's used in a kitchen. Avol b'katan, but a tanner that is made for a katan, the Rash says sha'osin hatinoikes l'schaik, that they used to play with. So then tchilase kolshu, it's good enough with the shear of a kolshu, which the Gemara in Chulin on Daf Kuf Chav Daled Amud Aleph learns is a tefach. Now the Rosh Bavar Zakasha, why don't you say every tanner gadol, once it breaks, it should still be mekabel tuma miteres tanner of a katan? And he says that it was made in a different oifen. It was mishuna basiyase, oy begoiva, oy beroichav, oy b'ksalim dakim, some way in a different way, so that you can't just say that the gadol, once it breaks, it would still be a katan. It looked different than the one of a katan. The Mishnah continues, v'shiyarav berubav. So the Gemara in Chulin asks a question that if the tchilasa is a tefach, so how could the shirayim be a roiv of a tefach? What is a roiv of a tefach used for? So the Gemara answers that these words, shiyarav beruba, is actually going back on gadol. So follow-up question on that is, but what do you mean? Before we said shiyarav is ba'arba, it's 4 tvachim. So why over here are we saying that it's beruba? And the Gemara says it depends on the size of the oven. By a tanner bas shiva or a tanner bas tisha. And there's a machlekes rishonim how to learn this teretz. If we're saying that a bar shiva is beruba, meaning that even if it's less than 4, but roiv is enough, so roiv of 7 is going to be 3.5, even though that's less than 4 tvachim, it's also going to be metama. Or other rishonim learn that even though if it's a bar shiva, you would still need it to be 4 tvachim. You for sure need it to be 4 tvachim. The Mishnah continues, Misha tigmar melachte. So this, the Rash says, is going back on the halacha of tchilasa and kolshu. And on that we're saying that you need the tanner to be nigmar melachte, which we negate the ratio of the Mishnah also by a gadol. And ezu gemar malacha, what's considered gemar malacha of a tanner to say that it's mekabel tuma? So machlekes, the Tanakama says mishisikenu kidei la'afais by sufkinin. So now we have to explain exactly what a tanner is to understand this. A tanner is basically a big pot that was attached to the ground by putting cement around it. And the way you got the cement to stick to it, to touch the ground, was by heating it up, and then through that heat, it attached to the ground. So on that we're saying, the Tanakama holds that heat doesn't have to be a real strong heat. Like by Klicheres, we said you need seer of kivshan. That's what we said at the end of Perik Daled. The very end, it said, Klicheres maybe say mekabel tum mishit sarfu b'kivshan. We had machlekes tanom about that. But by Tanor, the shear is even a smaller fire, just enough that it could be medabek the tit. And kedei lafes by sufkinin. Sufkinin is like a airy bread, so it's easier to bake. And Rabbi Yehuda says it's even less than that. Mishiyasek es hachadosh kedei lafes biyashan sufkinin. That by an old oven, it retains the heat quicker. So over there, it's good enough with even a small fire to make the sufkinin. And Rabbi Yehuda is telling me, even though it's a new oven, it's good enough with that small fire that you had by an old oven is even good by a new oven. Mishnah Beis is moving on to kira. A kira is a pot that has 2 holes in it, and there's room to put 2 pots on top of that. Or sometimes you bake it inside. You could put it inside also. And a kupach, which we're going to learn soon later on in the Mishnah, is the same as a kira, just a room for only one pot. So the kira is good enough with much less than the tanner. The tanner, we said the shear was 4 tvachim. Over here is tchilase shalosh, is good enough with 3 etzbais. B'shiarayim shalosh is good enough with 3 etzbais. Over here it's misha tigmar malachtai, ezu gemar malach. Over here the gemar malach is meshisi kenu kidei levash aleh beyakala shebebeyim trufa v'nesuna b'alfas. Also a small fire, but over here it's used for, let's say, cooking an egg on the top. So even a small egg, like which the Gemara in Shabbos says is a bayas tainas gayos, a chicken egg, when it's scrambled, so it's good enough as long as you could cook that, that's like the easiest thing to cook. That's hot enough once it gets that hot that it's already considered a kira. A kupach, so then it depends. Asuya lafia, if you're using the kupach for baking, so then it's shiurei ketana. It's like the tana that it needs 4 tfachim. So lebishul, but if you're just doing it for cooking, then shiurei kikira, then it's like the kira that we just said was good enough with much, much less, which is only 3 etzbais. Now the Mishnah says a new separate halacha, ha'evin hayetze min hataner. If you had a stone coming out from the tanner, so the Rashi explains that stone is ketaner dami, it's like the tanner, and they should tzrichel the tanner liyos yad, because it's used for the tanner as a yad. So even though an Evan is normally not Mekabel Tumah, but over here it's part of the Tanner, it has a Teres Yad to the Tanner, and therefore it will be Mekabel Tumah Miteres Yad. But how big of a stone? If it's very, very big, then it's not Tzarech HaTanner anymore. So up until a Tefach. Hayetze min HaTanner is a Tefach. Min Akira Shalosh Etzbais. Even less than that, only up until 3 Etzbais. And Chibar Yetze min HaKupach, by Kupach, is the same thing. It depends. Asol lafia shiur ketana, asol lavash shiur kikir, like we said before. Amar Yehuda argues and says, le'omru tefach el bein hataner v'lekaisel. The only time the shear is a tefach is only if you're putting the stone, attaching it to the tanner towards the wall, meaning they put the tanner against the wall, and between the tanner and the wall was the stone. And the Rashi explains that people want it to go as close as possible to the wall. So if anything more than a tefach, then we say it's oimedes linatal. You're going to wind up taking it out, and therefore it's not going to be. It doesn't have a teres yad. Only up until a tefach. So it's dafka then that it's up until a tefach. But if it was not near the wall, then it could be even more than a tefach. If it's tzad abayis, then we would consider it a yad even much more than a tefach. That's what the Rashi explains. The Mishnah says that if you had 2 ovens, 2 tanners next to each other, then each one is entitled to a tefach. But more than that would be tar, wouldn't have a din like a yad.